Okay, I want to tell you one of the most incredible business stories you will ever hear. Seriously. It's a story that basically throws every modern rule about startups, funding, and growth right out the window. We're talking about building a massive empire with less money than you'd probably spend on lunch today.
First, I just want you to look at this number. 1,600 crores. That is the massive, mind-boggling annual turnover of one of India's most iconic brands, Lijjat Papad. For any company, that's a huge figure.
Now, look at this number, 80 rupees. This is how much it cost to start the entire thing. A borrowed 80 rupees. And no, that is not a typo. A 1,600 crore empire from 80 rupees.
So that brings us to the big question, right? How on earth is that even possible? How did 7 women with no business plan, no fancy degrees, create a business model that, frankly, no modern startup has ever managed to replicate? Well, let's get into it. So let's rewind. The story starts back in 1959. This is a time when the whole startup playbook we know today, VCs, pitch decks, growth hacking, it just didn't exist. This wasn't about building a business. It was about creating a totally new path with an idea that was honestly decades ahead of its time. I mean, just think about the sheer scale of this journey. It all began on a single rooftop in Mumbai with just 7 women and that 80 rupee loan. And today it's a nationwide cooperative that empowers over 45,000 women, bringing in that massive turnover we talked about. The growth is it's absolutely staggering. But here's the thing. To really understand the secret to their success, you have to look beyond the balance sheet. You have to get the real problem they were trying to solve. And I'll give you a hint. It had almost nothing to do with making papads. To get their real goal, you gotta picture 1950s India. For most women, especially from lower middle-class families, having their own money, their own economic independence, was just a pipe dream. The 7 founders, they weren't trying to be entrepreneurs like we think of today. They were just trying to figure out a way to earn a respectable income to help their families and do it without having to leave their homes. They were solving a really deep social problem. And this is where the story gets really, really interesting. Because in solving that problem, they accidentally discovered a business philosophy so radical, so completely against everything we're taught, that it became their biggest advantage. This was their secret weapon. Just think about how any business gets started. The first questions are always about ownership, right? Who's the CEO? Who gets the profits? Who owns what percentage? Well, the founders of Lijjat looked at that whole rule book and they just threw it away. On day 1, they made a promise that would define the entire future of the organization. This was never going to be a normal company with bosses and employees. No, it was going to be a cooperative, a family. Every single woman who joined, who rolled even one papad, would be a co-owner, an equal partner. And this just shows you how different it is. You look at a traditional company, it's top-down. Workers get a wage, owners get the profit, managers check for quality. The goal? Make money for shareholders. But in the Lijjat model, every woman is a co-owner, so her motivation is directly tied to her own work. And who does quality control? She does. Of course she does. Because the brand's reputation is her reputation. The goal isn't just profit, it's a dignified living for all the sister members. Okay, so the philosophy is totally revolutionary. I mean, it's a complete game changer. But a great idea is nothing if you can't make it work. How do you actually run a daily operation with 45,000 co-owners, all making a handmade product, and keep the quality perfect across the entire country? Well, this is where their operational genius really shines. This system they came up with is so elegant, so simple. So you've got these central kitchens that use machines to knead all the dough, which keeps the base product consistent. Every morning, the women, they're respectfully called bens or sisters, they come and collect this dough. Then they go home and roll the papads at their own pace. Later in the day, they bring back the dried papads, which go through a super strict quality check, and boom, they get paid for that day's work. It's a decentralized model that lets them scale like crazy without ever building giant factories. And this whole system is held together by 3 core vows, things they treat with almost religious importance. First, collective ownership. Every woman is a true owner, period. Second, the concept of business. This is not charity. Lijjat is a self-reliant business that makes a profit, and they've never taken a single donation. And third, the concept of family. All members are treated with total respect as equals. Their approach to money is also legendary, especially when you compare it to a startup today. You know, startups are always chasing VC funding, burning cash on ads. Lijot, they have a strict no credit policy. They only sell to distributors for cash, which means their cash flow is always healthy. And for decades, their only marketing was the quality of their product and the power of their story. So when you put all these pieces together, the deep social mission, the wild ownership structure, this genius operating model, it all comes down to one core idea. It's the one thing that makes this whole impossible story, well, possible. And the power of that one idea is right here in this number. Over 45,000 sister members. This isn't just a workforce, it's a movement of 45,000 proud co-owners. And that gets us to the real secret. The magic ingredient in every single packet of Lijot Papad, it's not the recipe. It's that deep sense of pride, that feeling of ownership that you get from knowing you are not just an employee, you are building your own legacy. And at the end of the day, that's why Lijot is so unique. You can't just copy the business plan, because there really wasn't one. It was never about a plan. It was about creating a self-sustaining world of empowerment. It's not a model. It's a movement. So, it leaves all of us with a really powerful question, especially in today's world of unicorns and venture capital. What could this simple, profound idea of shared ownership unlock for your vision? We break down radical ideas just like this every week, so if you want more explainers that challenge how you think about business, make sure to subscribe to Finologix.